What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Today's video is going to be on sniper rifles and marksman rifles and their bullet drop and bullet velocity over time. So in game they use a real physics simulation to try to mimic the real world. So there's air drag and there's bullet drop and bullet travel time, whereas some other games are all hit scan where the bullets don't have any travel time. There's no physics on them, so they don't slow down over time and things like that. So what I did is I measured bullet velocity and bullet drop at various points in Plunder, and then I back calculated using real physics equations some bullet velocity and bullet drop equations, and then I generated charts so I can show you a comparison of all the sniper rifles visually and how they compare with bullet drop and bullet velocity. So it's pretty cool. I'm going to show you guys that as we get into it. But if you like what I'm doing and you want to help me continue doing that, liking, commenting, and subscribing all helps me with the YouTube algorithm, and I'd really appreciate it. So yeah, if you like the stuff I'm doing, that'd be awesome. All right, let's jump into it. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is the HDR. I want to apologize. I've had the wrong bullet velocity on my website. People knew that the HDR felt like it had a really high bullet velocity, and I always thought that that was just because it didn't have as much drop as the other sniper rifles. But it turns out that my testing methodology was wrong. So the way I tested originally was I tested shooting something that was about 130 meters away, and I would test until the bullet actually disappeared, so there was no light coming from the bullet at all from the tracer. But it turns out that the HDR has this big trail behind it that I didn't know about. So what I was doing was the bullet was hitting, and then the trail wouldn't dissipate for another few frames, and that made my bullet velocity come out much lower. So here's an example of the HDR shooting across the entire Warzone map. You can see that big trail behind the bullet, which most of the other sniper rifles don't have. So you can see that the bullet hits first, and then the tracer behind it doesn't disappear for a while. So that's how I got that wrong. And this is an SPR for comparison, so you can see that the other guns don't have this. So the SPR has like no tracer at all behind it. It's just the dot of the bullet itself. So that's what made my HDR bullet velocity wrong, but I've corrected that on the site now. I don't have all these new bullet velocities from the video up on the site yet, but I'll be getting them up there as soon as this video is uploaded. So when I was originally recording all these segments of the video, I forgot to mention that the bullet velocity and bullet drop for all these charts are maximum bullet velocity builds of all the weapons. So always the longest barrel, always the monolithic suppressor to generate maximum bullet velocity. So in the future, the website's going to have a calculator, like I mentioned, where you can swap the attachments and do whatever you want to the guns, and do this for all the ARs and SMGs and things like that to generate these bullet velocity and bullet drop charts. But for now, the charts in this video are all just maximum bullet velocity and maximum or minimum bullet drop builds of the weapons. So keep that in mind when you're looking at the charts. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to go over is the bullet velocity comparison over 1,000 meters. So I'm not going to explain everything I did to come up with this, but basically what I did was I took a bunch of measurements in game at different distances, and then kind of reverse engineered an approximation equation that will pretty accurately approximate the bullet velocity at any distance after your shot. So that's what these equations, or that's what these plots you see on the screen are. So we have at the top the HDR starts a little over 1200. It's quite a bit faster than everything else, and then slows down to about 1144. Next fastest is the AX50. Then after that we have the SPR Norma. Car 98 and Lapua rounds are.
There's no emphasis in these actors, so it's Lapua. Okay. There's no emphasis in the end, like you all say.
Okay. Wait, say that again.
It's Lapua.
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 Okay, that was.
So it's not a trumpet thing, because in English it's like a trumpet.
It is not Lapua. It's Lapua.
Lapua.
Yeah. Okay. That's right.
And it's a city.
Car 98 and Lapua rounds are both starting out very close to the Norma rounds, but you'll notice they slow way faster. So the green and blue line here, they slow down way faster than the Norma rounds in game. So that's why I think Norma rounds are the way to go for Warzone if you're taking long shots. Then the next one down is the Dragonal. Then we have the Rytec, and then the base SPR is the slowest with regular ammunition, which is it's super slow and it slows down fast. So it's just not very good for Warzone. Okay, now on to the bullet drop charts. So how I did this was I used those bullet velocity values that I calculated based on my in-game measurements, the equations that I came up with. Then I used real-life physics equations to calculate the amount of drop that these would have given those bullet velocities in real life, assuming they all had the same caliber and the same cross-sectional area and the same mass and everything like that. And then what I did was I used the actual measurements in-game for the specific bullet types to calculate basically a scaling factor for the equations that I came up with. So basically a lot of math voodoo, but I came out with a chart that's very, very accurate all the way out to 1,500 meters basically. This chart only goes to 1,000 meters, but these estimations will be pretty accurate all the way out to 1,500 meters. So it's pretty cool. This is a feature that's actually going to be on the site pretty soon. It's going to be a premium feature. You can do this for any sniper, any weapon, any attachment combination, and you'll be able to get bullet drop charts that will basically look just like this. You can add all the different weapons with the different attachment combinations. But yes, that's coming soon, hopefully. We're working on that, working on all the programming for that. But anyway, let's get into the chart. So, starting at the top, HDR, that's what you would expect, has the highest bullet velocity, and everyone's always thought it felt like the most hit scan gun, so it comes out with the highest bullet velocity and least bullet drop, which is what you'd expect. Next up is the Norma rounds. Norma rounds have the second least drop behind the HDR, and again, that's because the bullet's caliber is different, so it has a different cross-sectional area, has a different mass, and they're trying to scale it appropriately in-game. I don't think it's a real physics ballistic simulation with drag and things. I think that would be too computationally intense in-game. I think they probably did something relatively similar to what I did, where they just calculated a scaling factor based on some basic equations just to try to scale it to where it would roughly be in real life. So even though the Norma has lower bullet velocity than the AX50, it has less drop, and that's again because of the geometry of the bullet and the mass of the bullet and things like that. So on this chart, the next most drop after the Norma rounds is the Rytec. So this chart would be accurate for the Rytec out to about 500 meters because that's where the actual scaling bullet drop test that I did was from. But it's going to drop faster than this in actuality. So after 500 meters, it would be dropping quite a bit faster than this. And the reason this chart doesn't work for the Rytec is because it still does shoot up a little bit at the start. And the assumption that I made when I was generating this chart was that it just shot just perfectly horizontal first rather than up a little bit. And I know people think they patched that, and they did patch it and made it significantly less, but it still does shoot up a tiny bit. Not very much though. But yeah, anyway, the Rytec would be accurate within about 500 meters on this chart. Just past that, it would start to drop a lot faster. And then after the Rytec, we have the AX50. Again, the reason this drops more is because it has a bigger bullet, more air drag in real life, so they scaled it back in game so it would drop faster, because that's essentially what would happen in real life is the bullet would slow down, and then it would have a longer time to fall out of the sky and longer time for gravity to act on it, which is why it would drop more in real life. Then we have the Lapua rounds. Again, that's just a bullet geometry thing. It slows down faster in real life, so it's scaled in this game. Then we have the Dragonal and the Kar98, which are basically on top of each other all the way out. I mean, they drop more just simply because of the bullet velocity mechanics. And then the most drop is the SPR with regular ammunition, and I don't know why this drops so much, but it does. It drops a ton, and significantly more than any other marksman rifle or sniper rifle. I don't know why that is, but it's what I measured and found, so it's good to know. I mean, it basically means you have to use the Norma rounds in Warzone if you want to use this sniper rifle. All right, one last little demonstration to show you that the Rytec still does actually shoot up a little bit. So this is a Rytec, and I'm just going to shoot right at the center of the 0 and the 10. So that was right at the center of the 0 and the bottom 10 on the thing, and then you can see that it shot up a little bit. So that's why it's a little tricky. I'll account for this when I actually put it on the website, when I get the bullet drop charts on the website, but for now I just haven't done that. but it is something good to know. Shoots up a little bit, and then so it kind of arcs. It'll go up and then arc back down a little bit, and that's why my chart was off. Is because it was assuming that it was flat to start with, so it saw that it didn't drop very much over 500 meters, and then assumed that it didn't drop very much the rest of the way. But the only reason it didn't drop very much over 500 meters is because it shot up a little bit to start with. So, all right. So like I said at the beginning of the video, this stuff takes a long time to gather the data for, and then do the calculations on, and generate all this stuff for you guys. And the website obviously takes a substantial amount of time more than that. So if you like what I'm doing, subs, comments, likes all really help me grow and will allow me to continue doing this. I'm planning on keeping True Game Data up to date all the way through Black Ops Cold War and into the future, but I need your support to be able to do that. So I'd really appreciate it if you helped me out. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something. I will see you all in the next one.